Good morning, Central Pennsylvania. This is Trish Robinson with Two Inspiring Matters of the Heart, a show for the community and about the community. Thank you for joining me. I'd like to first thank my sponsor, Maria Williams Turner. She does hauling. If you see the information below, please contact her. Find out about her business, her services, and her products. We need to service and support our small businesses. This is important that we generate the dollars back into our community, and this is one way of doing it. One of the things that the pandemic has affected is our court systems as well as our prisons. And because we know statistically, Black and brown men there's a high percentage of them that are incarcerated. So we want to figure out how we can better serve our community and those that are in prison, especially during this pandemic. My guest today is going to shed light on that information and be able to share with you some things that will help our community. So first, I'd like to say I appreciate the time that you've taken today to just come in and share with us, Mr. Flood. But more importantly, I think this is a perfect topic to talk about, especially during this pandemic time when everybody is fearful of their lives and we have men and women that are confined to one area and we don't know if they are getting the right resources that are available. So first, if you would like to share with the listeners your background, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I wear a multitude of hats. My primary hat is Secretary of the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons. More locally, I used to serve with the NAACP as their legal redress chair. But since this program is, or at least the subject matter right now is prisons in particular, I also serve as an advisory member of the Dauphin County Prison Community Advisory Committee. So that's something that was formed within the last year and a half, and the purpose of that committee is to serve as a liaison between the prison and the community. So
Awesome.
Happy to talk about any and all matters involving Dauphin County Prison.
Awesome. So this new position, this is something that is, it's very challenging for you, I would say, probably, especially given, and I want to go into a little bit about your background. So let's talk about that. What made you really want to go into this line, this profession?
Well, most folks that know me, at least locally, but a good number of people don't know my true background, and I'm kind of deliberate in that, right? I don't, while I'm certainly not shameful of my past, I rather lead with what I've been doing within the last decade and what I'm doing currently.
Absolutely.
The background is a footnote,
Absolutely.
and shouldn't be, at least in my opinion, something that I lead with. But most folks, for those that aren't familiar, that I previously served 9 years in the Department of Corrections, 4 years as an 18-year-old, and then 5 years went back in as a 23-year-old. But it wasn't until I was about maybe 20, 26, 27 that I knew that state government, not even state government, I just knew that government was something that I wanted to pursue once I was released. Much like the saying or the adage goes, that the pen is mightier than the sword.
Right.
So I wanted to be the one behind the pen, not the one in the pen, right? So
I like that.
And at the time, Linda Thompson had served as the mayor of Harrisburg. Mm-hmm. I didn't know her from a can of paint, but I figured once I would be released, there would be some internship opportunities, at least to make my foray into government. But she had her own challenges, and luckily for me, I ended up pivoting towards state government and had some friends and family members that extended an internship opportunity to me with the House of Representatives. And then from there, it was just about learning the process and applying for different positions and really
applying yourself.
Yeah, applying myself, but also gaining that institutional knowledge. So, and I know part of what you do is to not so much like I know you're famous for saying not everyone should pursue the college route, right? Because
absolutely, it's not for everybody.
For them.
Absolutely.
So for me, I didn't necessarily have to take the college route. I was lucky to get a number of different opportunities extended to me where I got on-the-job experience that I was able to leverage. And from there, really, it was just a matter of trying to make sure I had my hands in everything happening in this county. So yeah, and that's still kind of my mantra now. And I like to say I'm in everything other than the casket, right?
Well, that's good. We don't want to go there yet. You have so much work to do here with us. So just going back a little bit, when you first left the prison system, there had to be. I mean, what was that aha moment where you're like, this is what? Because a lot of times we have people that transition out, but then they transition back
Right.
in to the system. So what was it for you that really kind of like that? Sometimes we may read something or we may hear something or something just penetrates our heart to say, you know what, this is the route that I want to take. What was it? Was there any type of moment or anything that spearheaded that?
I think certainly, and I like to refer people to different pieces of literature. The autobiography of Malcolm X for me was something that the concept of transforming oneself, right?
Wow.
So for people that knew me in the 90s, right, a completely different person than I am now. So, and most people think I'm not from. People who don't know me or didn't grow up with me, they think I'm a transplant from here, right?
I would have thought you would
Right.
too.
So I
Absolutely.
mostly get that. So, but it was about that concept of transformation and seeing Malcolm be able to transform himself, not only transform himself locally and within his community, but globally. So I knew that, that's something that I wanted to do, and I felt like too, if Malcolm had not had suffered an early demise,
Right.
I think the natural pivot for him would have been politics.
Okay.
So that
I
was
believe
something
so.
that I said, hey, you know what? This is where I want to. This is the place where I want to be. So that was kind of what was seminal to me, saying, hey, you know what? This is what I want to do. And then there was another instance. I was at SCI Chester. This was the second sentence. Because to your point about recidivism, and if the Department of Corrections, when they measure outcomes and recidivism,
Right.
they look at a 2.5 year period, right? So, and their stat currently, Department of Corrections, is that 60% of the people that go through Department of Corrections will be back within 2.5 years.
Wow.
So I was that statistic, as I said, as an 18-year-old. I got out, I wasn't even out a year before I netted myself a 5-year sentence. So, I really hadn't given myself a chance. The autobiography of Malcolm X, and then there was one senator that came to SCI Chester, and for whatever reason, folks may say it's fate or divine, influence. But the superintendent at the prison asked me out of everyone in the prison, "Hey, can you introduce this senator?" And at the time, I had no clue who he was. I really didn't know the difference between council and Congress. So I said, sure. So they gave me some background material, and he had a very inspirational story himself. So it was those two moments, like I said, the autobiography of Malcolm X and Senator Stuart Greenleaf, his remarks and learning about his story, that really kind of set me on the pathway for pursuing a career in government.
Wow, that's very inspiring because for our listeners, and there's so many young people out there that really need to hear that story, really need to hear your story, because it is imperative that we know that you don't have to succumb to your environment. You can make a transition, you can make a change, and you can also make a difference. And that's what you're doing by using your experience, your life and your plight and now your flight, in terms of you're using that for the good now. You're reaching back and helping, and that's why you're the Secretary of Pardons, because you're looking at how I can better serve my community. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's your calling, right?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
it is. And it took for me to be a 27-year-old man to kind of figure out, hey, this is what I wanted to do. So not everyone figures that out at
Right.
17 or 18 when they graduate. And at the end of the day, if you want to really reduce recidivism rates, it's, you have to be able to help people identify what not only they're passionate about, what they're good at, and how they can monetize what they're passionate and good at, So
Wow,
for me, that luckily for me, all those things kind of came to existence for me, and I was able to find that. But it took, we like to say second chances, right? It took about 4 chances for me, but once I found it, you couldn't pull me away from it.
Awesome. So what do you think, how do we correct the problems that we're having now? The revolving door, what can we do? What are some things that you have, or when you think about implementing in your position to kind of help those individuals realize that You got to know your passion. You know,
Right.
you got to know that you can do something that's worthwhile. What is it that you can put in place? Is there anything in the prison systems right now? Because it doesn't seem like there's much reform.
I mean, it may sound simple, and a lot of folks may dismiss this notion, but I think hope really is a lot, right? Because
Right.
you constantly hear, especially when you're incarcerated, when people are recidivating and
Right.
coming back from outside, they're not saying, "Hey, opportunity is ample out there, man. They're hiring here."
Yeah.
And that's not
You
usually
don't-
the sentiment you're hearing. You're hearing the exact opposite. Ain't nothing out there. You might as well don't waste your time. Blah, 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 blah. So it's really discouraging when you go out. So when you have a lot of people going out with the mindset not even to try, So for me, as I said, because I've been to a lot of juvenile placements too. So from like 97 to 2000, I had never been on the street for a full calendar year. So for me, I said, I'm going to at least give myself one calendar year of trying to do the right thing.
Right thing.
And I was hopeful in the fact that within that year, something would
happen.
would happen. Certainly, I didn't know, I would be able to get full-time position at the House of Representatives within that was about at the 5th month mark. So I think hope. If you think that you have a shot, and especially those that consider themselves hustlers,
Right.
right? It's all about the art of persuasion. Whether you're doing something illicit or whether you're doing something legitimate, right? If you can persuade the person across the table from you or
Right.
around the table from you, folks are willing to pay you for that service. So. I think if people, once they find that passion, oftentimes they may find out, okay, because of my conviction, I can't, or I
Absolutely,
may be,
the doors are closed.
right?
Yeah.
Or there may be a misconception about the fact that just because I have this, I can't. So for me, that was never something that, especially for government, that was never something that I considered. The other thing that most of your viewers may not know is, although I oversee the board of pardons now, I was a recipient of a pardon myself last year, March of 2019. So that allowed me to be able to take this position because we are a criminal justice agency. So part of my goal is to make sure that more deserving Pennsylvanians are able to get the same opportunity that I was. So I was able to restart my life and push, shake the etch and sketch. With
Absolutely.
regard to my criminal history, I want other people to do the same so that they can pursue their passions if they're otherwise prohibited from doing so because of those convictions.
Absolutely. And it can be difficult if you're in a prison system and maybe they're not getting the motivation that they need inside those walls. So it's pretty mundane.
Right.
And so not to have that, and they may not be getting visitors and things of that nature. So it puts them in a position where when they do come out, they're at a loss. They don't know how to re-enter into the world because they've been,
That was part of the reason why I was appointed to this position too, because a lot of folks, I wasn't necessarily it's a great position, and I'm able to do a lot of different things, and certainly historic, and even in the significance of having a former felon be able to oversee a criminal justice agency. But I had other plans, before that, but the lieutenant governor, this was his vision. This wasn't, and we had a relationship when he was running. But my goal was, I just wanted the pardon. I didn't
Right.
want to
You
oversee
didn't want to see
the
it,
agency.
right.
So, but it was his mindset that, hey, listen, if people can see that you were able to do what you were doing, what you've done, and still be able to get to this position. So it's not only about transforming the system, the clemency system, but it's also about inspiring people and giving them hope, right? So, I have a friend of mine, from uptown, that I knew from back in my
your
illicit
days.
days, and he's been doing the right thing the last
Absolutely.
15 years, and he
Awesome.
said to me not even 2 weeks ago, he was like, "Man, you know what? Like, I think people don't realize, like, maybe because I know you personally, but if you could do all of this, man, like anybody can,
Anybody
like,
can do it.
So." And that was good to hear him say that too, especially the people that are kind of close in that
Absolutely.
circle that have convictions. They want to be able to do this, especially be able to protect your family these
Absolutely.
days. So I get a lot of people reaching out who are interested in pursuing executive clemency or pardon. So yeah, my job is definitely to pay it forward and inspire folks. But that was the lieutenant governor's mission, is really to be able to inspire the folks that are classified as justice-involved Pennsylvanians.
And that is awesome, because I was going to say that do you consider yourself someone that looks up to, that, like you said, is inspiring, because you're African American man, you were in the system, now you have come out and you're doing things to give back to the system. Do you, as a mentor, do you see yourself as that?
I mean, or a role model.
A role model, yeah.
I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, anyone who I'm always you got to meet me halfway person.
Okay.
So I don't care if you're family or how long I knew you.
You got to put in the work too.
Yeah, you know.
Absolutely.
So as long as we go into that, whoever that is, the person who is looking for guidance or wants to be mentored, as long as they have that mindset, I'm not hiding.
You're available.
Yeah, I'm not hoarding all my resources and keeping my game
Keep it
to
to
myself.
yourself.
Right?
Okay.
I'm willing to share it.
That's awesome.
I want to share it with those that at least I have some sense that they're willing to apply that. So.
And I know that there are young men out there that would definitely take you up on that offer. I think it's imperative that we allow our community to know that the opportunity is there. We just have to put forth the effort,
right.
And the time. So, what are the qualifications, if you could share with us, to be pardoned? A person can qualify to be pardoned.
Right. So,
and is it a long process?
Yeah. So it is a deliberate process. I won't use the term long, but it is a deliberate process. Okay. It's about 2.5 years. And to give some context to that, it used to be 4 years. So we're slowly but surely reducing the turnaround time. And then we have what I call a good problem on our hands, at least we have since 2019, is there's more Pennsylvanians applying. So as more people apply, and our staff complement doesn't grow, obviously naturally that turnaround time will lag as a result, because we have to process more applications per year. And just to give further context to that, historically, we never received more than 600 applications a year.
Okay.
2019, we received this is when the lieutenant governor was elected. When I got appointed, we received over 1,100 that year. And then in 2020, prior to the pandemic, we had received 500 March 1st. So we were projected to eclipse 2,000. So as more people find out about the process, as we're simplifying the process, because it is about access, so we have a good problem on hand. So part of my job is, at least when the budget time comes in November, we need more staff to process more applications, because technically, in my opinion, it should be 20,000 people applying per year, not two.
Not two.
So
yeah.
Absolutely. In terms of qualifications, and as I said, there's a lot of misconceptions associated with this process. So it is about a 2.5-year process. It is literally free. You don't have to pay anything. There is no filing fee. There's no application fee. Even Dauphin County, we have, especially if you're in Dauphin County, we have a partnership with the clerk of courts and Dale Klein. So any paperwork and photocopying fees will also be waived. So free process in Dauphin County. And then it doesn't matter, as long as your conviction was a state conviction. So you were convicted by either common pleas court or on a magisterial district justice level, you're eligible to apply for a pardon.
Okay.
If you were prosecuted or convicted federally, there's a federal process for that. Any and all convictions are eligible. Doesn't matter. It can be the most, all the way to first degree murder to retail theft. But obviously, the more severe the crime or serious the crime, the higher the bar is to clear. Yeah, I mean, so obviously we get about 80% of the applications we get are for pardons, 20% are for commutations. And what commutation is a modification or the reduction of one sentence. So think of someone on death row who wants their sentence commuted to life, someone serving life who wants to serve life, be released and serve life on parole, or someone who was unfairly or unjustly sentenced. Like, we had a guy sentenced to 50 to 100 years for marijuana alone.
Goodness.
So that's the process. So clemency, the term clemency is just the ultimate act of mercy, forgiveness from the Commonwealth for anyone convicted. Clemency is made up of two parts: pardons, which gets rid of your record altogether. Clean start. And commutations, as I said, just modifies one sentence. So.
Wow, that's great information for our viewers out there, to kind of dissect what the difference between the pardon, the levels of a pardon. What is it that they're doing? Because I know, there's always that inmate that may say, I only did this, or I was convicted, falsely. What are we doing now to clear those individuals, or is there a process? And because of the pandemic, and it will be a great time to release some of those inmates. What is the process right now?
So specifically to Dauphin County, there isn't anything in place.
Okay.
You have some counties that have what's known as a conviction integrity unit, and their very function is to investigate cases where there possibly was prosecutorial misconduct or bad actors in a case on the side of the police. So their job is to research cases and see if, especially claims of innocence. But that's a county-based initiative. Philadelphia has a conviction integrity unit, and I believe Allegheny County does. Dauphin County does not have one because obviously that would, you have to devote more resources for that purpose. So it's something that can be done, but isn't currently being done in Dauphin County.
And why?
I think, if you ask the district attorney today, he'll probably tell you funding. So
Okay.
if you can find that will be his primary. I'm sure his
Responsibility to find the funding.
The funding is
Yeah.
it would be problematic. So
Okay.
that have investigators and full-time staff. The attorney general more recently. Now this can apply to counties too, but they're still kind of in the infancy stages.
Okay.
Is the Attorney General of Pennsylvania has a statewide conviction integrity unit. So they're still trying to figure out how they're going to work with counties and how cases will be referred. And then there's us, the Board of Pardons. Even though we're not really set up for people who maintain innocence, I don't believe we've ever commuted someone who's maintained innocence.
Okay.
But we know that there's people. We get tons of people that apply and make that claim. So what we are in the process of doing is revising our application. I'm working with the Pennsylvania Innocence Project to create a separate section. That way, at the very least, we can review these applications through a lens of innocence, as opposed to reviewing an application where someone's maintaining innocence. We're viewing it like someone who professes guilt, right? Or, or some culpability.
Okay.
But that's it right now, unfortunately.
Okay. Gotcha. So with how is what is going on with, I know that there's, and I'm speaking to this because it's very, very recent, the protesting in terms of Dauphin County.
Right.
And it appears that it's mainly because of the inmates are not getting feel like they're not getting the proper treatment that they should be. So where are we at with that, and how, what are in your position? Is there anything that you can do, or is it totally county? Is it?
Yeah. So I mean, and this is where I'm taking off the pardons hat and putting on the advisory committee hat for Dauphin County Prison. So yeah, I mean, what our role has been, our committee members, the 5 of us has been, is people. We're encouraging the community to email us their specific concerns, the prisoner in question, and to leave their contact. And we're having someone from the prison return their call personally to go over the issue with them. The prison is, at least as was expressed to me, they're following CDC guidelines. So, I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, we would like to be able to have a facility where we can isolate positive cases in a whole different section in a cell by themselves. Well, that's not the reality of prison, and that's part of the reason why the CDC guidelines were drafted the way they were. So the prison is, at least as was expressed to me, they're adhering to those guidelines. They're doing what they need to do. But the other part that most people aren't familiar with is that Dauphin County voluntarily decided to test. So you have 67 counties, and only 2 counties have voluntarily decided to test their full population. Right.
Wow.
And I only know that because of my I also serve on the governor's task force for health disparities, and that was one of the we surveyed all 67 counties and say, how many of you are testing, and only 2 responded, Dauphin and Montgomery. So you have 65 counties that aren't doing any testing, so you don't have any numbers because you potentially have a whole bunch of asymptomatic people incarcerated. So Dauphin County was being proactive in this sense, that saying, hey, listen, we know that we got asymptomatic people here, so let's do full-scale testing, staff and inmate population, so we can kind of get ahead of the curve.
Can I ask you this question? I'm sorry,
To,
but does that have anything to do with the fact that so Dauphin County and Montgomery County is predominantly minority?
Well, you can say Philadelphia.
Counties.
You can say Philadelphia. You can say Delaware,
Yeah.
where Chester is. You can
Same
say
thing.
Allegheny. So it still would be more than 2 counties.
Okay.
But no one wants to invite, what we see now.
Right.
No one wants to invite the kind of criticism and scrutiny you'll get, because naturally there are going to be positive folks that test
Absolutely.
positive. Everyone who's tested positive in Dauphin County Prison was asymptomatic. So there's a lot of information on in social media that's not kind of being blown out of proportion, where people are dying and on ventilators. Dauphin
Right.
County Prison does not have any ventilators there. So we're doing what we can to share information
Right.
in real time and be able to have
Absolutely.
the institution contact folks. And especially, you have to think about, we're talking about medical conditions, right?
Absolutely.
So there are certain rules federally that prohibit just the prison from freely sharing information about someone's medical history for a cousin or a friend who's interested. So we're trying to get immediate family members, mothers, significant others, or whoever's listed as a emergency contact, to be able to have that real-time dialogue with Dauphin County Prison. So that's what we've been doing.
Okay.
And naturally, some folks will find that to be insufficient. But I
Well,
like to tell people that
yeah.
if 2 years ago, there never was an advisory committee. You wouldn't have got any information. You wouldn't have had any warden come out and speak to protesters and answer questions. So, it's baby steps.
Baby steps. Brandon, I can talk all day with you, but we are short on time. So can you tell our listeners how to contact you in your office?
Sure. So I'll give 2 points of contact. So if you're inquiring about anything involving Dauphin County Prison, specifically COVID related, certainly we know there are tons of things and issues that need to be addressed with Dauphin County Prison, but right now we're looking at COVID specific issues. So if you can email me at bflood22@live.com. And if you have any questions about executive clemency, which has to do with pardons or commutations, you can email me at bflood@pa.gov.
And I want to congratulate you again on your position. And I think that you're going to make a difference in the community, because you are setting an example. You're setting the bar in terms of you can make that transition. You can change. And a lot of our Black and brown young boys in particular really need to see this. You're an example for our community. And it's very important that they hear your voice. And how you're going to make sure that we at least have those conversations in terms of reform. So again, I want to thank my listeners. This is Trish Robinson with 2 Inspiring Matters of the Heart. My sponsor, Maria Williams Turner, thank you, with She Does Hauling. Please contact her. She has a wonderful business, and we need to support our small businesses here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Again, thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.